Okay, Nicole, take it away.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna do the full screen right now. It's having a little bit of an issue. But so we're gonna start here for now. But thank you so much again for having me today and being able to present. This was something that I studied specifically for my dissertation when I was at Aurora University. And I was getting my doctorate right in the midst of COVID, and my passion has always been older adults. And I knew that loneliness was increasing significantly. So, my main process and goal was to find some kind of cure or hope for loneliness. So, let's get started. So, loneliness in older adults. One way to define it is it can be a distressing feeling that accompanies the perception that one's social needs are not being met by either the quantity or especially the quality of one's social relationships. Everyone's going to be experiencing loneliness a little differently, and it's important to know that somebody can still be by themselves. An older adult can be by themselves and still feel connected. This could be somebody who's maybe more of an introvert, but an individual can also be surrounded by a ton of other people and feel lonely. This is something that's unique to the individual. And a lot of times, just in general, when we speak of loneliness, loneliness isn't something that's necessarily a prescription or somebody can say, okay, this person's feeling lonely because of this. Loneliness is 100% subjective, and nobody experiences it in the same way as somebody else. And every intervention or every approach or guideline is different. The number of people aged 65 years, at age 60 and above, is expected to double by 2050 and more than triple by 2100. So this is really important specifically for the baby boomer generation and older adults. Not only do we have that, but specifically at University of Chicago and worldwide, there are a ton of growing technologies, prescriptions, health treatments that are extending the quantity and quality of life for older adults, which means that people may have a higher risk for experiencing loneliness as well too. There's going to be different reasons why somebody may be feeling lonely. Somebody may have experienced the death of a loved one. This could be a spouse, this could be a parent, this could be a child, a grandchild, this could even be a pet, a friend, or somebody who's close. Somebody may not have the mobility. Here at University of Chicago, we have a ton of people who can't come to their appointment because of transportation. They may not have the transportation services, or they themselves may not be able to go out to these activities. People may also be concerned for more personal issues, including incontinence. If somebody's going out or is worried that, something may happen while they're out and they're worried about embarrassment. People also may have health-related issues, memory impairments. There may be decreased income. Another huge reason for loneliness is retirement as well too, and for anybody who has or is in the process of becoming a caregiver, because your needs are significantly for somebody else. COVID was something that was really important in terms of the increase of loneliness. With the increase of health issues, it put older adults at a significant risk. People didn't really have time or didn't have the opportunity to socialize in person and spend time with family or friends. So one point that I wanted to make is when I was doing my dissertation on loneliness, I interviewed a few people, so maybe around 15, 20 people. And below is what was somebody's quotes, just in terms of how the COVID masks affected our perception on loneliness and companionship as well, too. This is what she said. The masks take something away from us. They take away our emotions, so we just have our eyes. The mouth can show all sorts of different emotions, so you feel a bit more isolated with that because you'd like to be able to smile at somebody that may not be feeling all that good. Or maybe you don't feel so good yourself and you just wish somebody else would know that there's something that's not so great going on with you, but nobody knows because we're all just eyes in a mask. So that was somebody's direct quote, just in terms of how COVID masks, how it really impacts somebody's personality as well too. So when we think of loneliness as a whole, how do older adults' experiences shape the loneliness? So as I said, similar in terms of like grief or any experience like that, no experience is similar. So no death, loss, loneliness is parallel at all. Um, your loneliness and your loss is experienced by what your view of family is, how you view hope, how you cope, and the ways that you view loneliness subjectively. So there's a variety of factors that impact somebody's loneliness, um, including their own way that they cope and the environment that they live in. Um, in terms of COVID-19, um, we've had increased loneliness because of the inability to leave the house and see friends, and we no longer had that companionship that we did previously. So more specifically, when we talk about COVID-19, we have our own responsibility to decrease loneliness. For those of us who are in social work or a service-related field, the National Association of Social Work Code of Ethics, it calls us to enhance human well-being and help meet the basic needs, which is socialization, especially those to the vulnerable, oppressed, and older adults. This is a quote that I found that really helps me to kind of understand and discuss the loneliness as well too. As social workers and professions in the helping field, we cannot automatically accept the physician's interpretation of the problem. So when somebody says that they're lonely, we can't just automatically accept and say, okay, they're lonely, they need to get out, they need to do this, and they need to have people around them. Because that solution or that approach, you're not understanding what the individual truly does need and their own expression and potential solutions to the problem. So we need to be able to ask questions, have the older adults explain what they're looking for, and being able to have increased education on grief and loneliness too. So some community things that we can do are first acknowledging who do we know that may be at a potential risk for loneliness or isolation. Who do we see around us that may be due to mobility, due to income, due to transportation services, or being vulnerable or having significant health issues? Who do we know that could potentially be at risk for social isolation? Um, Try to find ways to get to know the person. Whether that's through conversation, what do they like? What do they enjoy being engaged in? Understand what they are lacking and what they need, um, and their subjective reason for the loneliness. Trying to spend time with them or introducing them to friends and linking them to resources. If for whatever reason, if there are barriers specific to loneliness, it's going to be important that you can assist them in finding any kind of transportation or linking them with technology resources through the library. One thing that um, was really helpful just in terms of the dissertation was finding ways to step outside of your comfort zone. We'll talk about this more at the end, but when I was doing this study, I thought that I was going to come out of this with like a miracle cure to loneliness, that there was going to be some amazing thing that I haven't yet learned or known of. But in reality, it's a lot of times the smaller things that actually help older adults. So one of them is stepping out of your comfort zone. So whether that is saying hi to somebody new, complimenting somebody, starting a conversation at the mall or at the store, or at the grocery, doing something that you can to connect yourself with somebody else. That could also include making monthly plans with friends. There was like significant statistics on even if it's something small, or having one game night a week, or having girls' night or book club once a month, having something on the calendar, regardless of how small or how insignificant it can seem, was very helpful in terms of positivity and optimism as well too. Communication is something that we need to continue to work on and work through, especially with COVID-19 and the increased use of technology as well. In terms of our community, we need to understand the programs that we already have. So even throughout Chicago, there's different enrichment programs, friendly visiting programs as well too. It would be really helpful to have some kind of a buddy or a mentor program. So that could be home visits, accompanied in wheelchair walks, helping with shopping, dog walking, anything like that. But even having somebody just to come by and say hi and socialize. So whatever part of Chicago or Illinois or outside of Illinois that you may be from, it's important to already know what resources are available in the community. Another option that I've heard a lot of information on is people are trying to do more intergenerational events. So that could be even older adults with kids or playing with kids who are at a daycare and looking at different community events. Okay. Something to keep in mind is although somebody may be experiencing loneliness and the difficulties through COVID, if we're not able to do something because of mobility or we're not be able to do something because of a health restriction, keep in mind that there are always ways to work around it. They may not necessarily be ideal and it may not be how we hoped before, but there are ways that we can help individuals feel like they are in control. Um, so even if it's something small, such as like doing an exercise activity or meal prepping at home, you know, whatever the activity may be, there are do-arounds. We had this one individual who, especially during COVID, she loved having game nights with her friends and they'd go out and they'd kind of have like a potluck type of a thing. And COVID really crushed this for them because this was like their one time to see friends and see people and get around. And even though they couldn't have the same exact interactions that they did before, they were able to meet over Zoom and they still talked. Keep in mind, it's not how it was before, but they are working around to still make it happen. So we need to make sure that older adults and ourselves have that flexibility as well too. Other activities to engage in is, first of all, I put a psychological family. So understand who your psychological family is. This is not somebody who necessarily needs to be blood related or have the same DNA, but who do you consider your family to be? Is this a neighbor? Is this a priest? Is this a best friend? Is this a pet? Who do you consider to be your best friend and your support throughout your loneliness? Also, maybe find ways that you can volunteer or engage in hobbies. Throughout the entire study of loneliness, the most significant thing that we found in terms of what helps people to get through and get out of and work through the loneliness is what I call the little things. So even if it's something as small as making a phone call or making cards um or just talking to somebody or doing something so small, I really went into this thinking that, there was going to be some kind of a miracle cure, miracle hope for loneliness. But a lot of times we need to start small and remember the little things and how they can help us feel that connection as well too. So in the study as well, participants, they talked about hugging, having their loved ones our arms around them, spending time together and making memories, watching TV and simply talking. These were the simple and are the simple aspects that life has to offer, but are also most important in terms of helping people feel less lonely. Other items include a kiss, a hug, or sitting next to someone is more valuable than what it may appear. The research states that the participants appreciated the small yet meaningful gestures. So this is a little different compared to the rest, but I did want to add this in. When I was studying loneliness, it was specifically for individuals whose loved one died. So it was mainly and most significantly a spouse. So if you're experiencing loneliness due to the death of a loved one, these are some things that helped people to feel that their loved one was either still there, present, or with them, and help them to still feel that companionship. So that includes feeling like their loved one's presence, in whatever way that may mean to them, feeling that their loved one has touched them or hearing their voice, looking at photos of happy memories. A lot of people would make scrapbooks, having dreams of their loved ones. Whenever they were going through a rough time and they didn't know what to do, they were like, what would my spouse or what would my loved one suggest that I do? What would they say right now? People would also light a candle, recall traditions, have a moment of silence, advocating for a need or maybe something that they have died from, smelling perfume or a scent, including cosmetics or whatever reminded them of their loved one. Sometimes it was seeing specific numbers, whether it was the day that they were born or an anniversary, or any kind of monumental day. Another aspect is hearing a song. Maybe it was a wedding song, or maybe it was their favorite song. Watching a movie, or seeing items such as butterflies, pennies, or cardinals, which are often signs that your loved one is watching over you. In general, in terms of loneliness, there were a lot of different things that were studied, but it really seems that at the end of the day, in terms of loneliness, maybe not so much seeking the more significant things, but seeing how you can help loved ones in minor ways. And at the end of the study, a lot of people gave just lessons in terms of what they learned from their loneliness and grief, and these are some of them. Live every day to the fullest, and life is precious. Don't lose out or regret that maybe you didn't do something or didn't appreciate something at that time. Don't waste your time. You don't want to waste time being upset with people because, the next day they could be gone. Enjoy the little things in life. Time. In terms of time, especially with COVID, this is something that was completely unpredictable. You didn't know if you could have another week, another month, another year. You didn't know that for yourself, and you didn't know that for somebody else. So taking the time that you do have to make the most of it and value it. You also have to understand that you have to be happy with yourself and where you're at and do things for yourself. One of the other main lessons in terms of loneliness was that nobody's going to cure it for you, and you may have people to assist you, but at the end of the day, you have to be the one to take the initiative and want to fix the loneliness. You want to have to work to fix the problem. Nobody can do it for you, but you have to be your own advocate, and that you are responsible for your well-being. The final lessons were to use time more fruitfully. Be fruitfully busy. People can waste time and still think they're busy, but be busy in ways that are important to you. You have to take yourself and realize what you have to do to get out of that stress. Everybody needs people. And most importantly, you have to find your own pleasure. You have to be happy with yourself and where you're at. No one can expect other people to make you happy. So in conclusion, I'm going to share a video that is specifically in terms of loneliness for older adults. And it really encompasses and goes over how we can work to do simple, small, and yet meaningful things to decrease loneliness. So I'm going to share it with everybody right now.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
My name is Layla.
Oh. Are you here with your parents or?
Yeah, with my mom. Are you shy or something?
No.
It's kind of boring having a tea or coffee by yourself. You need somebody to talk to.
Why are you wearing a hat?
How much money do you have? Why is your hair white?
It's a bit like the trees in autumn. You can ask a tree, why are your leaves brown?
Do you mean in the bank or?
Like your pocket money and stuff like that.
£560. a month pension.
Wow.
If you had that, what would you do?
I would get a dog and get a house and a swimming pool and go on X Factor. Do you have Netflix?
Nothing like that. I've just got a radio.
We normally play Bulldog.
You still play Bulldog? I remember playing that.
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
Peter Piper picked a...
Good.
Where are your friends and where they are right now?
Some of my friends are abroad. I was born in Jamaica, so a lot of my friends are there, you know.
I mean, I'm new in London.
Well, I've had hundreds and thousands of friends. At the moment, I've got a lot of Facebook friends.
Well, maybe I can sit with you and have some coffee. Yeah?
You like coffee?
Yeah.
Do you? What's your favourite?
Hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate.
Why can't everybody be friends?
That's a good question.
It's not as easy as that, really.
I couldn't walk up to somebody in here and say, would you like to play with me? I'd be a bit strange.
I think everyone should talk to everybody.
That's the nicest thing I've heard all day.
You've really made my day.
Making friends is easier than eating chocolate. I think everyone in the world should have one big party and become friends.
Okay, and let me just...
This is my comeback.
Sorry. Just exiting out of it. Okay. Any questions? And yes, I will share the link. Feel free to unmute yourselves.
I have a question. Should I raise my hand? Okay, that was a great presentation. And I was wondering, I've heard that some people link people that are lonely to a heightened occurrence of dementia and Alzheimer's. Do you find any of that with your studies?
Can you say that question again? I'm sorry. I'm not sure if it was on my end, but I had difficulty hearing.
It could be on mine. I was asking about loneliness being related to increased occurrence of dementia. I've heard that lack of socialization kind of helps increase that risk. So I just wanted to see if that actual or what you've encountered during your studies.
Yeah, there's definitely correlations to it. I don't think we can necessarily say that it causes it, but there's a ton of statistics on how loneliness can increase issues regarding memory and general health. There's a lot of cardiovascular side effects in terms of loneliness as well, too. People say loneliness can be as bad as smoking like 6 cigarettes a day. So a lot of times people may not necessarily acknowledge that, even if it's not something as like smoking or drinking or something like that, but there are significant side effects and concerns from loneliness that are still being researched and continue to be acknowledged. So that's definitely a correlation.
Thank you.
Nicole, I just wanted to say thank you, and I enjoyed your presentation, especially the video. I think that was a nice way to end it and bring it full circle, and it encourages me to continue to initiate conversation, with people and try to make connections as I'm out. I did have a question in regards to kind of like in the middle of the presentation when you were speaking about identifying risks for social isolation and loneliness. And I was wondering, did you have any pointers for us on how we would identify people that may be at risk?
Mm-hmm. So I think like what can be the most difficult part is, in terms of like grief and other things like that, I don't know if there's ways that you can maybe point people out, but I think kind of looking at some of the risk factors that like I talked about before. So if somebody's in more of a rural area and they don't have any family, or they don't necessarily have like Wi-Fi or technology, that's going to be somebody who's going to be definitely more at a significant risk. So being aware of that, somebody who maybe recently lost a spouse or a child or something like that. So being aware of those things. But I also think it's important to understand that those aren't just the risk factors, just in terms of mental health. Even with, Robin Williams as well too. A lot of times people who are depressed, people who are suicidal, people who do have difficulties with mental health, it's not portrayed or it's not recognized, or they're, wearing a mask in terms of kind of trying to cover it up. So I think it's important to understand that just because somebody may not necessarily look lonely doesn't mean that they're not. So I think that this is effort that we should be giving to everyone as well too. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. That does. Thank you.
And then if anyone too ever did have any questions or anything like that, I put my email in here. Feel free to reach out. The dissertation is a long 4 years, and it's like 300 pages. So I have a lot more information. This is like a very short little tidbit, but if anybody has any other questions, just feel free to email me as well too.
May you post your email in the chat?
Yes.
I know you did earlier,
I
but
can,
in case
yeah.
someone joined later.
Yeah, of course. And then I'm gonna post the link to the video right now. And if you guys do look, not even just the YouTube, but on the website, Be More Us, they're working on specifically, like, it's called the Campaign to End Loneliness. So it's through England. So I would suggest looking at that too, the Campaign to End Loneliness. I can put that in the link. Anything else?
Well, Nicole,
Harriet, Harriet, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, regarding the video,
Okay.
as I understand it, several years ago, England had a cabinet level position about loneliness, and I think Japan does also, and Sweden doesn't have it exactly like that. But I was just struck by the video. I assume that came perhaps, well, I don't know that I should assume it came from the government, but it's a well done video. But it points out how little casual exchanges, and you mentioned earlier the mask, how the mask hid our smiles, which was the simplest, I see you, I acknowledge that you're there. And those opportunities are still there, whether it's in the grocery store or the post office. If you're at home and isolated, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But there's so much technology that is available and simple to, some of it's more complicated to use than others, but how can we reach out to more and more people?
Yeah, and I think it's just important too to acknowledge that, even, with a variety of research, people think, and I thought that there's going to be a huge lesson in terms of loneliness, in terms of what is this intervention and this goal and this outcome. It's things that we already know, but I don't think we appreciate them as much since we are so into the high tech world and stuff like that. You know, we don't have time to sit next to somebody. And if you go on that website too, there's a video and there's just like 3 people and they sit down at a couch at the mall and everybody's like on their phones. And then one of them is just assigned to start talking to people and then they have a great conversation and no more phones. It's just like we have to go back to maybe how more of it used to be.
And Nicole, that's very true too. And I want to also highlight Lucas, who is one of our community partners here today, but I know he's not able to share, but he mentioned about the Chicago-based affinity group Make Room at the Table. And they have published annual lists of tips you can do to, if you'll be alone or if you know others that are going to be lonely over the holiday season. They've done a lot of work in pulling together all these different types of tips. And he actually posted their Facebook page. So I do recommend checking that out too. They're a fantastic group. Thank you for bringing that up, Lucas. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Hi, everyone. I do have a thank you, Nicole. That was awesome. And I was thinking about how you were talking about how making the effort for people to reach out to different kinds of people in the world, like your psychological family, right? And one idea that one of my colleagues had done is she made a list of all the people in her world, all the people. And I actually have encouraged some of the people in my support group to do the same. As like, are they friend, teacher, mentor, any kind of colleague, and actually just put them on the calendar and like invite them already and just connect by text or phone or email, like whichever different kind of connection you can make, no matter how big or small, but it's already on your calendar without even sending an invite. But you can have the list of all your favorite people and have them already on the calendar for you. And sometimes people with dementia, it's like hard to make that happen internally. So if you have a trusted friend who can help make that happen for you, that was just an idea that was shared with me that I thought I could share with you all because it seemed like a great idea.
Thank you, Tessa. I appreciate that. And that also leads to another one of our community partners that I wanted to also share. There was Dr. Jeremy Noble is coming out with his new book, Project Lonely, and it talks about types of loneliness, how creativity connects us, and the most important things in alleviating loneliness. So I'm also going to share that link because that is actually and please don't mind Lucy, who's trying to make sure we're not lonely in the background over here with her noise. And but I'm going to post that book from the Foundation Art and Healing founder, Dr. Jeremy Noble. So I'll put that in the chat for us.
I just posted it for you, Renee. Sorry. As you were talking, I was posting it. So it's in there.
All right. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for this fantastic presentation. We appreciate all the resources that you and actually all of our community partners are sharing.